Hey guys, Miss Ragland here, and today we are going to get started on our shading projects for the week. And first we want to do a quick shading tutorial. So for this, all you'll need is a piece of paper and a pencil. And don't mind my fingers, we're doing decorating for homecoming week, so it's kind of a mess around here. Let's get started. First thing you want to do is I always label my sketchbook page what I'm doing, shading. Now, a couple of different things I like to teach guys. One of the most important things about shading is making sure that you have a light source. So if you're outside, that may be the sun. If you're inside, it may be the light or a window. And sometimes for us artists, we just have to make it up. So we're going to do that. We're going to make it up. And what I mean is we're going to draw a sun here just so we know exactly where our light's coming from. Now normally we do not ever draw suns in the corner of our paper. We don't do that. But for today, and to help us, we're going to do that. So the next thing you want to do is draw a circle, and that's what we're going to shade. We're going to turn it into a sphere, and we're going to put a couple of lines behind it so that it's sitting on the table. So next thing, no problem, that we're going to do is we are going to shade it. But first of all, I want you to know that this is where your highlights are going to go. And this is where your shadows are going to go. And why is that? That's because the highlights come from the light and the shadows are going to be blocked, so they'll go here. So, let's get started. One thing I want to point out is that when you're shading, you need a regular pencil and you need to hold it on its side. And that's because you can create tone with the side of your pencil without creating lines. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is kind of just give our whole sphere some shading, some tone. And sometimes the wood gets a mess in a messy way, and you have to let me sharpen mine. It's having some issues. Let's try that. Now, there we go. That's much better. So once you get the whole thing slightly shaded, you can blend it in with your finger. Ta-da! Blendy, blendy, blendy. Now, that's what we're going to call our mid-tone. That is our mid-tone gray. That's our middle tone. You always need to have a mid-tone, a shadow, and a highlight. So, we're going to start with our shadow now. And it's going to be darkest on this side because it's away from the sun. And you want to continually push down with pressure, and you can see how I move mine around. You can move it around if that helps you. You can try holding your pencil different ways if that helps you too. Whatever you need to do. My circle is a little wonky. Now, one thing I want to point out is that your shadow should match the contour of the object that you're shading. So I am doing a sphere, so my contour is a crescent. We don't want it to be a straight line. Now, you want to make sure that you try to go as gradually as possible from dark to light. So what I mean is, the more different shades of gray you have, the better. So from dark to light. So you don't want just a big black stripe and then a gray stripe. You want to try to blend it all the way up here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to erase our highlight. So something like that. And then we are going to put our highlight right there. And I'm just going to erase it. Also, I'm going to make it round. And that's going to create our spherical shape. Now, you always want to remember to put a shadow on the table or the ground or whatever you're drawing so that it looks realistic. That shadow is also going to go here, opposite the sun. You also want that shadow to be darkest under your object and lighter as it comes out. So something like that. Now, when you are shading your actual art that you're going to do for the week, you're going to want to add shading in the background. But for today, we're done. The next thing I want to go over is a value scale. Now, Many of you may have already done a value scale for me. Many of you have not. So everybody's going to do one in their practice. You can do as many boxes as you want, but what you want to do is go all the way from darkest to lightest. So your first box you want to put, it should always be as black as you can get it, and the last box should be white. Now you're just going to use your pencil and get as much as dark as you can. And it doesn't have to be super perfect. I just want you to practice going from dark to light. And when you're done, it should look something like this. So darkest, middle grays, all the way to white. Okay? So you guys take your time and do that. I'm going to skip down to the last thing that we're going to do, and it's what I like to call ways to shade. So I want you to draw 5 boxes, and we're going to go over all the different ways there are to shade. The first one is the one we've already been doing, and I call that basic. And that's where you're just going to take the side of your pencil, just like we've been doing, and you're going to go from dark to light in the same box. Okay? Basic. The next one is called hatching, and that's simply drawing straight lines. Now, the closer together and the harder down you press and the more layers you do, the darker it's going to be, and then the lighter it goes, the less lines you want to do. So that's hatching. The next one is cross hatching, and it's simply hatching and then going over it, crossing it. You may see this style of shading in comic books and things like that. Dr. Seuss likes to use a lot of hatching as well. My favorite kind is called scumbling. You can also call it scribbling, because that's what you're going to do. You're just going to scribble. Now this one's fun because everybody's scribbles are different. It's like a fingerprint. Most everybody looks hatching and cross hatching is similar, but scumbling, everybody's scribbles different. So it's the same way. The more you layer it here, the better it's going to look. So there's scumbling. And then finally you have stippling. This one I like to tell everybody about it, but we never do it because it just takes too long. And that's simply using dots to create shade. And we don't have the time for that. But stippling is a way to shade, and it's very important to know it. So you have basic, hatching, cross hatching, scumbling, and stippling. So this is what you guys need to do as practice for me this week, and get that turned in. And then we'll get started on our projects. Happy creating!